This is the Fight Fan with your host, Pete Hoffman, and I am joined right now by a very special guest, Brendan Fitzgerald. I've been trying to get this guy on forever, but he's just very busy. It's tough to get a hold of him.
No.
You can watch him on UFC, do play-by-play, but he's also on the desk as well. Welcome to the show, Brendan. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Pete. Love the energy. And it's not as much that I'm so busy, it's that I'm always home, right?
Oh,
Pandemic,
okay.
always home. So it's like the family, all the to-do list at home never gets shorter. And if we're traveling all over the world and all over the country, then I have downtime at the hotel, but the pandemic forces everybody's working at home. So everyone has that home and work thing all melded into one. So, but I'm happy to be with you, man. Let's do it.
I respect it. I understand that because I haven't filmed myself. So it's like, and now we have a dog too. So now that's just the element of
just
like
more to-do list, list.
I don't want it. I want to get out of the house into the office. So how has it been though for you specifically? Because the pandemic, we understand what's going on, but the fact that you are home so much, now the fans are starting to pick up. Now you're able to go travel a bit more. Or what is your schedule? How is your schedule changing?
So mine hasn't. Obviously last year, March, the world gets turned upside down and then we're back home all the time. I went to Jacksonville last year. And then I went to Fight Island in September, October for 2 weeks. But other than that, I've been all at the Apex. And our fight night events are going to continue to be at the Apex for the foreseeable future. I don't know. I really don't have any details on when the fight night events, when we'll be back full schedule on the road. Obviously, right now it's once per month. It's the pay-per-views. And I don't have to travel for those. So I wasn't in Jacksonville last week. I won't be in Houston. Obviously, July, Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier is here in Vegas. So maybe I'll be able to play a part in that, but that wouldn't involve travel. So right now, it's like, it's still a holding pattern for me. I'm glad things seem to be opening up and that fans are coming back. That was amazing. Watching last week in Jacksonville was just a breath of fresh air to have a soundtrack to it with the crowd and the energy. You could tell that it rubbed off on the fighters. So that's amazing. And just fingers crossed that we continue to go in that direction. And then, back to whatever our normal is going forward. But I know that we'll be back on the road if all goes to plan sometime in 2021.
Listen, I'm looking forward to it. I in New York, we have like 33% capacity right now, but still not a lot of people. I know Dana's been on record saying, I'm not leaving the Apex until I could fill out every place that we go to. So I respect that because you do see the difference. I mean, this past week in this card, you saw the change. Was it a change in energy from the fighters? Because I said this too. I was like, I'm watching these fights when we first started the pandemic. I'm like, I don't care. I'll watch with nobody. I just want to watch sports. I want to watch fights. And then you saw this past week and you go, all right, we need fans back because it was just amazing.
I mean, how many other strawweight matchups that are the first fight of the night, a 1-2 and drops the other one? Like that doesn't happen in the strawweight division very often, especially not that quick into the fight and like a quick 1-2 and then they're rolling on the ground. It's like, I think what you saw absolutely rubbed off. And then the other thing is too, it wasn't just like the fans are back, we're back to normal. That was 14 months of pent up energy from fans that hadn't been able to go to an event. So rarely also do you get the first fighter walking out of the night and that kind of ovation, you know what I mean?
Right,
so, just start to finish, the fans were ready to provide the energy and the fighters were ready to soak it up. It was amazing.
So you mentioned the Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor fight pay-per-view that's supposed to happen because now on Twitter, unless I missed something, like Conor's like pulling out, I need a new opponent, and then UFC like within like 30 minutes of like, hey, this is official now.
Yeah.
So with that being said, first of all, it is going to be of full capacity. Is that what the plan is?
Yeah, Las Vegas and Nevada as a state, as I understand it, will open without restrictions starting June 1st. That fight is scheduled for July 10th. But I don't think they wanted to rush to the pay-per-view. They always want that, international fight week, July, big card, the week after or around 4th of July. So that's when that's going to be. But as far as I know, you'll be able to walk into a casino after June 1st without restrictions, without a mask, whatever. I don't know what the individual companies are going to do. Obviously, it's a private business if the MGM Grand says you need to wear a mask in our casino, but it won't be a state law. So that's starting June 1st. So, we'll see as more states kind of tick that box of opening without restrictions, then you'll find, the UFC will be a possibility to go there.
That's amazing. That's awesome. And again, like I feel like Dana is just like always ahead of it. You know what I mean? He's always trying to push the envelope, which is good because in my industry, your industry specifically too, like we need sports. We need to be back to whatever the new normal is even. But today, you guys, UFC went public, which is tell me how that impacts the company or you in particular.
I mean, I don't know, honestly. Like, I'm no financial guru, but
me neither. That's why
I know it enough to know that, like, all right, now we're answering to more people. You know, you're answering to shareholders, you're answering to earnings calls. All of a sudden, your information has to be a little bit more public. But that's, you know, that on the Endeavor scale of things. So it's not like the UFC went public, Endeavor went public. The UFC is one of the biggest, you know, things in their portfolio or under their umbrella. But I don't know, you know, that's interesting how it will affect. I asked my wife the same thing because she's more financial versed than I am. I'm just like, so how's that going to affect us? And she's just like, well, you're going to have a board, you're going to have board members, and you're going to have shareholders and all these earnings calls and stuff. And so it's going to be maybe a little bit more about the budget, or they could take the attitude of just like, this is how we run our business. If you want to get in on it, then you can buy some shares. If not, then don't have to, you know, so we'll just have to see.
I've always worked for big brother, the big companies. So I understand the lower end of things where it's like, okay, we have a budget. So I get that aspect of it.
Well, I mean, and I've worked for smaller, you know, listen, you go into this business, you know, you talk about budgets. I mean, I've worked at TV stations where like the head photographer is just like, our cameras are broke. Like we need new cameras. And they're just like, well, you got to figure it out. It's just like, we're a TV station. We need cameras that work to go out into the field to shoot these things that we air on the news. So, I mean, whether it's a small company or big company, budgets is always, you know, a budget is always going to be a part of it. Obviously, when you're at a big company, there's more there's more options to trim because you're just, you know, if you have all of this, then, okay, can we cut a little here? Can we cut a little here? So I don't know. I mean, I've seen that at ESPN. I've seen it at my TV station in Casper, Wyoming that I started in. You know, budget cuts will happen, and where can we trim to save a few dollars? That's just the reality of how businesses are.
Well, I mean, it seems like UFC is still on the up and up, and it's continued to rise. I mean, the Disney aspect of it was huge. In fact, as you're on ESPN Plus, ESPN all the time is amazing. And even the celebrities in the crowd too. You look at this past weekend, your boy Tom Brady. Now, how does it feel? I'm assuming you're
my guy.
I'm assuming you're a big Patriot fan, right?
So you have no idea how much I love Tom Brady. I got the book right here.
Okay.
Right? So I'm a Bucks fan now.
So that's what it is now. So you're just a Tom Brady fan. Doesn't make a difference.
Well, so the longest time, so I, you know, as we talked about before we went on, I'm from Cape Cod guy. You know, it was Boston versus New York, everything. I was as big of a fan as you could possibly be. And once you get into I don't know if this is like this for you in New York, but you're, you know, from a local standpoint, but once you get into the business a little bit more, you start meeting more of the players and coaches and the people involved. And so once you start meeting them as people, I say this all the time, your allegiance to the teams gets less and less. Anyways, this is my experience. Like I don't hate the Yankees like I used to hate the Yankees. Now, part of that is that the Red Sox have done a whole lot of winning. You know, when I'm in high school, you know, I graduated high school in 2001. I mean, that's misery right there, right? We hadn't won forever. We'd win a divisional round, and then we'd lose to the Yankees. You know, we'd have those teams. Oh man, this is it. Pedro's going to get us there, whatever. And you know, for the longest time, we just got stomped on once we run into the Yankees. So that, you know, on the cusp of that for so long, just build your fandom. But you know, you win in 04, 07, then 13. Then they've won it in these intervals where it's just like, okay, they'll probably win it again soon. We got enough money, we're spending it, whatever. So with that, and then the other part of getting into the business is meeting people. You start gravitating towards the people that you like and whatever teams that they might coach or play for. And so I just was always a big Tom Brady fan because he did a lot of winning. And then as I've grown up, what's important to me is kind of what's important to him, you know, like how healthy you are, what your mindset is, you know, dismissing people that are going to talk negatively about you or about other things. Like it's all within your control. And then, so I'm just like a Tom Brady guy. And so I was hoping he was going to come to the Raiders in Vegas,
right? Yeah.
Because there was rumor and I was just like, wouldn't that match up perfectly? But man, I was like, closet Bucks fan this year, and I'm, just hope he wins the Super Bowl wherever he goes until he's done playing.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. No, I do get that, because again, like as you interview fighters, I'm close with everything. Like again, I'm more baseball. First of all, I'm a Mets fan, so I'm just like, I can't stand anybody right now. I want to win a World Series, for crying out loud.
Right.
But as I've interviewed fighters and I watch them fight, like the mixed emotions, that I don't know how you are, because you're actually commentating, so you're doing play-by-play. You got to sit there and try to reel it in.
Right.
But when you see someone that you are close with, and either they get a knockout win or submit somebody, or this the role reversal, and they get knocked out cold. Like the Chris Weidman injury really sucked this past weekend.
Yeah.
Frankie Edgar's got knocked out, and that hit me hard. I've interviewed him plenty of times. I love the dude. So that type of thing, like when I watch that hurts me. How does it affect you as you're actually doing the play-by-play?
It's surprisingly it's surprisingly not, I don't want to call it easy, but it's like when you're calling the fight, to me, there's no other option than to call it straight down the line. Like I called, probably the biggest example of it is when I called Paul Felder fighting against RDA. It was just, what a storyline for Paul to step in on a week's notice to make the weight, whatever. And I've, chatted with him a bit during the week. And then at weigh-ins, like he was really not feeling it because of the type of cut he had to do. And, so to be so proud of him, just to be able to be in that position to take that opportunity. And then obviously, like, it's good for him if he wins, and it was all set up for him. And RDA is a great guy, nothing wrong with him, but I've called several of his fights. He's always respectful, but I'm friends with Paul. But at the same time, it's just like, you just got to call it down the line. Like I couldn't sit there and, root for Paul on the broadcast. I think what it is like, you make the calls that are appropriate for the moment, and you just inside, you feel so good if it happens. If somebody that you really kind of like and are connected with and whatever gets a big win, you're just so happy for them. But I don't think it comes out any differently. Dan Ige knocked out Gavin Tucker. And I like Gavin Tucker too. Nice guy, but Dan Ige lives in Vegas. His wife is from the same street in Hawaii that my wife grew up on. It's crazy. So like we have this, and so I'm just buddies with Ige a little bit. And, for him to get a one and done, like bonus winning knockout right before he's ready to become a dad, that was so cool. I'm so happy for him. But at the same time, like I'm going to have that reaction no matter what. If Gavin Tucker won and done Dan Ige, like, wow, a 20-second flash knockout like that's something to get excited over. And so you just have to kind of live in that moment. And it hasn't been an issue for me.
I on the other hand, have to sit there and like it just soaks in. It's like,
yeah,
I'm like boys with someone who's very tight with Stipe Miocic. So not saying I was rooting for either, because I've actually met Francis Ngannou. He's a sweet dude. Like he held my son in his hand. He's like a nice guy. So I wasn't upset that he won, but that extra hammer fist as he's coming down on Stipe,
I know.
And I'm like, no. And I'm like dying inside, and my wife's like, yeah, Francis. I'm like, you're just so torn by that. But it is. This is the one sport that there's no forgiving. Like, you can go the next day. I talked to a lot of baseball players. The next day, they just go back up to the plate and try and get a base hit. Or if you're a pitcher, try to go for, just recover for the next day. In this, like, you're taking 6 months off, a year off, or whatever, depending on how bad you got hurt,
Yeah. I think it's part of what makes it okay, is that that they're not fighting the next week. Eric Anders is on record saying MMA is easier on the body than football.
I've heard that.
He's just like, football, there's a game next Sunday. You get your bell rung, you get a concussion, whatever. And now they have the concussion protocols, but it's just like, they want to get back on the field. The players want to back on the field. I'm convinced Julian Edelman would have been out if it wasn't the Super Bowl against the Seahawks. That guy was taking crazy hits, and he was just like, scored a touchdown later on the drive, but in MMA that, you take a month off from even going into the gym or sparring or whatever. And then you take 6 months, 8 months, 2 years, a year and a half before you get back in there in real fight action. But it is tough, like Weidman's injury. It's just like those injuries really happen in MMA too. That's the other thing. You know what I mean? It's like, that's a freak thing. It happened in the NCAA tournament a few years ago.
Yeah.
To that guy in Louisville. And it's like, it happened to Alex Smith in football. So those things just happen, but it's very rarely that visceral, the hammer fist from Masvidal to Ben Askren, it's like, whoa, but then they pop up and they're like, I'm good. I don't know. It's a crazy game that they play, but man, is it fun to watch and cover.
Do you actually train at all MMA, jiu-jitsu,
So
something like that? Or?
yeah, I did. I started doing jiu-jitsu in September of 2019. When I moved out to Vegas to work for the UFC in 2017, I guess in the summer of 2018, I went to a Muay Thai class at Syndicate, tried it out. And it was fun. Like, it was cool trying to fit into the schedule, when to go to the gym in between, like going to the airport, traveling, trying to get time at home. So I did it a little bit. And then mostly I just wanted to work out on the bag though, because then I didn't really know my way around the gym yet. I liked it. But if you're just in a class and you get popped in the mouth, like, I didn't want to get a black eye. You know what I mean? Like, I can't get a black eye, can't get a tooth knocked out. Like,
you got a pretty face, man. You can't.
I got to keep the face intact. It's what's making me money, just in a little bit. And so I didn't want to do as much of the striking. And then so a year later, Eric Nixick at Extreme Couture invited me in there, and he was just like, "Hey man, if you ever want to take a class, you ever want to train, help your job, learn, whatever, be my guest, come on in." And now I've become like friends with Nixick. It's great. So I did. I took him up on that. I started doing jiu-jitsu in September of 2019, and loved it. And, you know, on the road, there's always like workout rooms for the fighters in the hotel. So rolled with John Gooden a little bit, and Dan Hardy when we were overseas, and Joe Lozon and some of the guys from Boston, stuff like that I formed a partnership with. So that's really cool too. And then pandemic happens. I haven't really done it since like February of last year. And I'm definitely going to do it and go back to class, but it's just like, I'm not there yet. I don't want to risk, you know, if I test positive on a fight week that I'm supposed to call, what are they going to do? They're going to call Anik and try to get him out from Florida, like day of the show or day, you know, so I don't want to disrupt our broadcast plans right now. My jiu-jitsu career is not that important in relation to that. So, but you know, make no mistake, as things open up and as everyone starts feeling better about where this thing is, I'm definitely going to get back in there and do jiu-jitsu. And I'll probably expand into striking again a little bit more now that I people kind of a little bit know who I am at Extreme in these MMA gyms. And I'll just be like, hey, can you not like knock me? Like, but let's do some technique. Then absolutely, I want to do it more. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I feel like the gyms are very respectful. All these fighters are so respectful.
Yeah, they really are.
The vaccines near you, is that a thing? Because right now I'm fully vaccinated. I've been vaccinated for a couple of months now. Is it difficult? Are you looking to get it, or has it come your way yet?
I don't have it. It's pretty available here. I'm just not there, you know, I haven't had it, but it's my own personal preference. And, you know, we'll see. Like I said, I'm still at home. So the conversation changes if I have to jump on a plane every week, but by and large, like anytime I'm going to work, I'm tested. And other than that, I'm staying home with the family and doing what we have to do, to be comfortable with what we're doing. But yeah, I mean, the vaccine in Nevada is, I think anybody over 16 can get it. Most of the people that I know that want it have it. So yeah, I mean, that's to me, it's a great sign.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like, to just, if you want it, have it. If not, then that's your preference on what's going on. And then, you know, we'll just, hopefully this thing keeps mitigating.
Yeah. I always say whatever makes you feel comfortable. And as you can tell, in Florida, everyone felt very comfortable where they didn't have to wear masks.
I know. That's, you know, it's crazy. Like, I wouldn't, you know, it's
so
nuts.
be it. Hey, but it looks nice though on TV. I'm like,
it's amazing. That's amazing to watch.
That day that I'm going to be there soon. That day's going to happen for everybody.
It's going to happen. It's coming. Yeah.
But this weekend we have a huge card coming up, dude. I love the fact that you just keep on banging out shows every weekend. Like, there's never really there's very few off weekends for the UFC. That's
when there is an off week, it feels like forever.
Oh my god!
When didn't we just have an off week?
There was
April.
One, yeah,
April 3rd. I think we were off.
Yeah, and it felt awful.
It
was
feels
miserable. I don't know.
It does. I remember when I started in 2018, or not when I started, but 2 years ago, and we had like an August 4th card. I want to say it was DC and Stipe 1, maybe. And then it was like 3 weeks, or it was like 2 straight weekends off, which almost never happens. But yeah, man, no, we're banging out shows. We're staying busy. I think we're supposed to have 44 events this year.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then you have the Ultimate Fighter coming back, and you have the Contender Series still happening, and it's just you guys are just a machine right now. I love it. But Dominick Reyes, and I'm not going to screw up his name, but Jiri, who is one of the craziest. The last fight where he knocked out Overeem.
Ozdemir.
Not Ozdemir, sorry.
Ozdemir.
And I'm just sitting there watching that fight. We're watching it at my brother-in-law's house, and we're just like, what is this guy doing? It just seems so awkward, and everything about him is just so different. But he's a scary dude. Tell me about this Dom Reyes fight with Jiri.
Yeah, so Jiri Prochazka and Dom Reyes. So yeah, man, Yuri's a hyped guy. You know, he's new in the UFC and he's still pretty young, but he's got like 32 pro fights or 30 fights or something like that. Champion overseas and risen. And you know, it was funny. We were talking to him yesterday, like via Zoom chat, and he was like, "Yeah, I was a little wild in that first." He's just like, that first round, but I have to fix that, because if I'm going to compete at the top in the UFC, I can't go in there hands down and all crazy. I know I'm up against a guy in Dom Reyes who would make me pay for that. So, you know, really wants to evolve, but he is his own guy. You know, he is very different. Did you see him at media day? He has his head shaved and he has like a ponytail sticking up the back. We're like, is that going to be, and that's like a Muay Thai traditional, you know, kind of war haircut, whatever. And he's just like, yeah, I'm going to have this with a fight. It won't have a red ribbon in it, but I'll have it for the fight. So he looks the part. He's just a mountain of a guy, really slick, really powerful, obviously. And the interesting thing with Dom Reyes, like I was over on Fight Island for that fight. I was doing the pre-fight and the post-fight show for that pay-per-view when he fought Jan Blachowicz. And so I was in the fighter meetings when he was talking to the broadcast team. And Dom, we were kind of sensed that something was off with Dom a couple of days before that fight. And he kind of told us as much yesterday. Like, he was just like, I wasn't myself. I was focused on, like, I have to put a stamp on it. I have to get a knockout win. I have to get a bonus win. I have to take the belt. The judges didn't give it to me against Jon Jones. Like, he had his brother was in his corner. He said Dom didn't take any personal responsibility for the experience and the knowledge that he had. He just turned it all over to his brother. And I don't know. He just felt like that wasn't him. You know, he's like, that wasn't me. That wasn't me in that title fight. And so I really needed to go home, get my stuff together, kind of adjust my coaching, adjust like the belief in myself, my mindset, what I need to do to win, which is just to, you know, don't chase the knockout. You know, we hear it all the time. Like, you know, in golf, you tee it up, you try to hit it as far as you can, you're going to slice it into the woods. If you just have a nice, easy swing, you're going to drill it down the fairway. So I think with fighters, it's really tough to try to pull back on that and let your technique speak for itself. But that's what Dom's looking to do. So very interested to see the bounce back.
It's funny because you see Dom, he knocked out Weidman. He had a very, like, the performance versus Jon Jones. You look at that fight and it's just like, oh wow, he's on that level.
Yeah.
And then you see how Jan handled him, and you're saying that, you know, it wasn't the normal typical fight for Dom. Is that, after watching that fight between Reyes and Blachowicz, is there a possibility that Jon Jones is like, I'm just gonna move up in weight class because I just don't want to deal with Blachowicz? Is that even a possibility?
I don't think so. I mean, I think you'd get laughed out of the room by a lot of people thinking Jon Jones was scared of Dom Reyes and Jan Blachowicz. You know, the Vegas line on Jon Jones against Jan Blachowicz, the Vegas line still puts Jones, I would say, -3, -400. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, and then Dom Reyes, it was a close fight. I wonder with Jones, sometimes, did he think he was so above a level? Did he cruise control, whatever. He's always done enough to win the fight, but
right,
he hasn't really made a statement. So I wonder if moving up to heavyweight is just like, okay, a new challenge, like a new motivating factor to get me going. For a long time for Jones, I feel like that was DC, you know, making sure DC didn't get the belt or didn't keep it, you know. Right. And so if you have these guys that you just think you're levels above that don't get your motor going, then maybe it was time to be like, well, Francis Ngannou will make me motivated, you know, if that fight happens. And just the challenges up at heavyweight, like Derek Lewis, you can't take a punch from Derek Lewis and live to tell about it, you know, if you take it clean. So, you know, maybe that's the reason to move up. I don't know where he's at financially and what's going to happen with all that stuff, but hopefully we see him at heavyweight, because I think that's a thing a lot of people want to see.
Dad, I said this when Francis won. I put it out there. I said that Francis versus Jon Jones will be the highest rated pay-per-view of all time for UFC.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah. Very, very realistic possibility. I mean, very realistic. It's easy to see why. It's not only two big stars, it's heavyweights. You know, it's just it's the new guy who delivered against Stipe, against the time-tested greatest of all time, I think you're on the right track there. I think it's very easy to see that. Plus, with how the sport's popularity has grown, even since Conor fought Khabib the first time, that was the biggest fight in MMA history when that happened. We're 2 years removed from that, and we're an ESPN deal removed from that. So that matters.
You talked about how moving up in heavyweight, you can't take punches from guys. It's just there's no wiggle room. These guys are killers. But Kamaru Usman, what he did to Jorge Masvidal, I never saw that coming. I never saw Masvidal being knocked out. Was that even in the back of your head that could happen?
I mean, no, I was shocked by that. I was shocked. I guess I didn't really picture the way that fight was going to go. I never really allowed myself to get ahead of it and be like, this is the fight we're probably going to see. I hoped for a good one. And I hope that it was going to be a lot more exciting than the first rendition, which it of course was. And when you factor in the fact that Masvidal hadn't been finished since 2009, and then also when he was taking some punches and smiling them off, I was just like, I was waiting for Masvidal to do it. Masvidal wasn't really landing with volume, but I was waiting for the explosion, kind of like he did against Darren Till. He was kind of taking the best that Darren Till had to offer, and then found his timing, found the home for that punch, and knocked him out cold. So I was just like, what? I was watching for Masvidal to explode in just some unorthodox movement that he saw, that he was training, and to really stun Usman, because Usman's been knocked down. He's been knocked down by Colby. He's been knocked down by Burns. Like, it's not like he's just this bulletproof guy.
Right.
But man, Usman is starting to become like a very an appointment television type of fighter. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's going to love watching Masvidal all the time. Usman, when he was coming up on his way to the upper echelon of the division, was, it was a lot of wrestling. It was a lot of wrestling. It was a lot of grappling. It was a lot of ground control time. And when you think about his fight against Colby, his fight against Burns, his fight against Masvidal, this last one, like, that's 3 of his last 4 have ended in emphatic finishes and great fights until then. The Masvidal one week, and it was a weird circumstance, and they're fighting at 8 a.m. across the world. Like,
right.
Different circumstance. But you look at 3 of his last 4 title defenses. I mean, that is something to be excited about, because when he beat Woodley too, he held him along the fence a lot of that fight,
Yeah.
But if we get more of this from Usman, man, I'm in. Sign me up for watching him.
I remember watching the whole Ultimate Fighter series, that the Black Zillions versus American Top Team. And I'm just like, I loved Hayder Hassan. I love Hayder. I was like, oh, this guy's a knockout specialist, is great. And then Usman simply took him down. It was a wrestling match. And that's what we've gotten out of him. So you're right. The fact that the striking has just gotten that much better. And Colby, surprisingly, you tell me, has Colby given him the toughest challenge?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Colby's taken him to the 5th round. Obviously, Woodley took him the distance, kind of. I mean, I feel like Usman took Woodley the distance in that one. Nobody else has challenged Usman like Colby Covington. Nobody. I mean, I think, depending on how the last 2 minutes of that fight play out, I think, Colby might win by decision. I think Colby had 3-1 on the judges' scorecard, at least one of them. I think with the other 2 judges, it came down to that 5th round, and I'd have to watch it again. But I want to say, when I rewatched that 5th round, I want to say Colby was even a little bit busier through the first 2 minutes of that 5th round. You know what I mean? Obviously, the big shot lands for Usman, and he finished it. But I mean, if that fight goes a little bit longer, and there's not this, as it was, which is like a back and forth slugfest with just how busy Colby is, I think he might have got a decision. So, I think, if that rematch happens next, that's amazing. Obviously, it sets up a monster trilogy if Colby gets the job done the second time around, or Usman shuts down that rivalry. People got to remember about Wonder Boy. I think you got to remember Wonder Boy sitting there. He's going to fight Gilbert Burns. If Wonder Boy wins that fight, he could very well sit out until Usman Covington happens. Root obviously for Usman to get that title shot, because Usman's starting to run through the contenders. You know what I mean? Like, all of a sudden, if you're number 4, you might get a title shot because he might have beaten 1, 2, 3. So there's still some challenges out there for Usman. I think it's going to be fun to watch.
And the welterweight division is stacked. Like, I mean, do you tell me which division in the UFC is not stacked? It'll be debatable, but I've always thought that welterweight is up there with the lightweight division, with the bantamweight division. I think it's just unbelievably a heavy division. So the fact that Wonder Boy's been there for so long too, it's incredible. And you look back at those Woodley fights, a lot of people give him crap over it, but I'm like, you put two people together, they were in a chess match for 2 fights. What else do you expect out of those 2 fights, you know?
Yeah, Wonder Boy is an interesting guy to watch, but he's, even though he might not use like knockout power all the time or whatever, he's still very compelling to watch because he's so accurate and so quick. Like when he fought Jeff Neal, he was kind of running through Jeff Neal, but there was still like this tension that you had watching all 5 rounds of that fight of like, is this going to be the kick where he finds the sweet spot, or is Wonder Boy going to get caught like he did against Pettis? You know, like he was put on a masterclass against Pettis, and then all of a sudden it was over. So like the tension sits there, but you need somebody willing to go for it on the other side. Like, you know, Woodley's title fights, it's like, you know, when he fought Damian Maia, like Woodley was playing takedown defense against Damian Maia for 5 rounds. So, you know, you can't put all the blame on one side or the other. And I think Wonder Boy at his best, like, and having been in that position and like a draw and like a close law, whatever, I think you might get a renewed aggression out of him on his way up, because if I want the belt, I'm going to have to go win it, you know?
Right.
So we'll see.
Brendan Fitzgerald, just a few more minutes with you, because I know we've already had a half hour, but what fight in particular are you looking forward to that's coming up? I mean, we have a pay-per-view event with Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler for the lightweight title. I mean, that's amazing. But what else you really feeling? The Leon Edwards versus Nate Diaz. Where'd that come from, dude? That's outrageous.
Yeah. That's mine. I mean, that's the one I have circled. I mean, obviously, you know, anytime there's a pay-per-view, it's amazing. You know, Adesanya and Vittori, I think, is going to be interesting as well. But I really think that the Nate Diaz, Leon Edwards, like 5-round co-main special edition. Nate Diaz doesn't fight enough to not be excited about. You know, trying not to use a double negative here, but like when Nate Diaz fights, you have to enjoy all of the aspects of it. You have to enjoy all of the media that he does, all of the embeddeds, all of the press conferences, the walk. You have to enjoy everything about a Nate Diaz fight, because he might be gone for another 3 years.
Right.
That's kind of how I feel about Nate Diaz. He is so like raw and authentic that it's fun to watch. You never know what he's going to say, but it's like he's smarter than a lot of people give him credit for. He's as tough as they come. And, you know, he's given us a ton of moments. And, you know, as a 3-1 underdog against Leon Edwards, and if he wins, he's in the mix for a title shot.
Unbelievable.
It's just, you know, you gotta really soak up all the Nate Diaz moments you can get.
And think about for Leon Edwards' career, because he's so inactive. His last fight with the eye poke, just ending that fight early. Leon Edwards, I mean, you can say what you want. The guy has been phenomenal when he fights, but he doesn't fight often enough so people don't know him. So this is going to put him on the map one way or the other. And if he wins, this could propel him to that title shot that he's been wanting, you know?
Yeah, and Leon almost never fights in the States. Like, he fought in San Antonio. That was his last fight. Looked great in it, right? But 5 rounds, and that was, you know, that's a lackluster event. There was like so many decisions on that card. It wasn't something that stood out. So to fight on a pay-per-view like that in a spotlight against a guy like Nate Diaz, like it's Leon Edwards' time to shine. Like, he's wanted a big stage, and, you know, unfortunately for him, like, he had a big fight lined up, and who pulled out? I forget. Who pulled out? Who was he supposed to fight?
Oh, geez. Now I'm thinking it wasn't until it was, no.
I can't even remember, but Bilal had to step in.
Yeah, Bilal stepped in the last minute, but it was really
good
the
fight.
Dude, there's so many. But here's the thing is, you're rocking every week.
No, I can't think of it. Oh, he was supposed to fight Chimaev. Supposed to fight Hamzat Chimaev.
Oh, right, exactly.
Because I was thinking, who's ranked in the top 5? He must have been ranked. You know, it's just like, no, he's supposed to fight Chimaev,
right?
And then it ends up being Bilal, and then an eye poke. So, you know, I got stuff when I said hopefully Leon Edwards can get some breaks going forward, because obviously he was the one who poked the guy in the eye, right? Bilal got the eye poke, so I felt bad for Bilal, and you know, Bilal is an awesome guy, but I was just like, hopefully Leon can get some breaks. He's had a heck of a lot of bad luck. He was supposed to headline in London. That's a big spot as an English fighter. Like, Darren Till's done it. Bisping's done it. Like, that's a big thing. And the week before is the pandemic. So, I mean, you know, I'm happy that he has this opportunity to show what he's been talking about for a long time.
Dude, the pandemic screwed up so much. I mean, when they announced the Khabib Tony Ferguson fight for like the 5th time, I'm like, this is something's wrong. Something's gonna happen.
I know.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it was in my backyard. I was so excited about that. But listen, maybe one of these years, who knows? Khabib ever comes back. But listen, Brendan, is there anything you want to promote for yourself? You've been awesome, man. I love having you on.
Thanks, Pete. Great to do this, man. I have a podcast called Fitz Nation. So it's long form one-on-one interviews with UFC fighters and other kind of people from our world of the UFC. Megan O'Leary has been on, and coaches and stuff like that. But yeah, it's long form interviews, and it used to be more of like a book report on their lives and let them tell some stories from their past, but it's kind of morphed into this like personal development mindset type of thing. Like I still get stories from their UFC career in their younger years and stuff, but I really kind of want to delve into like who they are as people and like the mindset that they have and the challenges that they've overcome. Cause I think everybody can take something from that. And if there's anybody who's battled adversity to achieve great things, it's fighters in the UFC. So there are so many great stories to tell, and happy to just try to get them out. But you can find that on YouTube, and you can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts. And other than that, look for me on TV when I'm, lucky enough to get the assignment to call some fights.
Rock and roll. Well, listen, I love seeing you. You add an energy that not everyone has. So I appreciate that. And I can't wait for you to be back in that element with a full crowd.
Me too, man.
Lots of fights, man. Calling fights can be awesome. But Brendan, thanks so much for the time, man. We'll do this again soon. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Pete.